For nearly a century, the Loch Ness Monster has stood as one of the world's most enduring enigmas. Tourists, scientists, skeptics, and devoted believers have been drawn to the shadowed waters of Scotland's most famous loch. Hoping for a glimpse of the creature, locals affectionately call Nessie. The legend has become bigger than Scotland itself, woven into global folklore, fueling countless books, films, debates, and late-night fireside stories. But now, after decades of speculation, hoaxes, and endless searching, modern science claims to have cracked the case. What scientists uncovered beneath Loch Ness is shocking, rewriting everything we thought we knew about the legend. Before diving into these recent breakthroughs, however, we need to step back and trace how this myth began, how it grew into a cultural phenomenon, and how it survived despite centuries of scrutiny. Long before anyone coined the nickname Nessie, the people of the Scottish Highlands told chilling stories about the He, creatures inhabiting their lakes and rivers. These weren't normal fish or seals. They were spirits, demons, and monsters, reminders that nature was both sacred and dangerous. The Celts of the Iron Age believed in the Kelpie, a sinister water spirit that often appeared as a horse. Travelers who mounted the Kelpie were dragged into the loch's depths, never to surface again. Another terrifying creature was the Knuckleavee, a grotesque sea demon with no skin, muscles and sinew exposed as it roamed the waters, spreading disease and fear. To modern ears, these sound like fairy tales. But to the Celts, they were moral lessons. Folklore was not only entertainment, it was a survival guide. Tales of monsters kept children from wandering too close to dangerous waters. They reminded adults that wild nature, especially the lochs, demanded respect. So when, centuries later, stories of a monster in Loch Ness began to circulate, they didn't sound outlandish. They echoed the beliefs people already carried in their cultural memory. The stage was set for a legend that would never die. The earliest written record dates back to the 6th century. Saint Columba, an Irish monk on a mission to spread Christianity in Scotland, encountered the locals burying a man. The man, they said, had been killed by a beast in the River Ness, which flows from Loch Ness. Columba's followers were skeptical, but soon saw for themselves. When one of his men attempted to swim across the river, a large creature surfaced ready to attack. Columba, unshaken, raised his hand, made the sign of the cross, and commanded the beast to retreat. Miraculously, or so the story goes, the creature obeyed and disappeared into the depths. This dramatic tale of a holy man facing down a monster combined religion, miracle, and myth. For medieval readers, it was proof of both God's power and the dangerous mysteries lurking in Scotland's waters. Whether factual or symbolic, it ensured that Loch Ness was forever associated with something otherworldly. For centuries afterward, the Highlands remained isolated, their legends largely confined to local storytellers. Travel was difficult, and Loch Ness was not easily accessible. That changed in 1933, when the new A82 road opened along the northern shore. For the first time, tourists could drive beside the loch, enjoying its haunting beauty. That same year, George and Aldi Spicer reported seeing a long-necked creature cross the road in front of their car. They claimed it carried a smaller animal in its mouth, before slipping back into the loch. Newspapers seized on their account, spreading it across Britain and beyond. Suddenly, Loch Ness was front-page news. By 1934, the legend exploded worldwide thanks to the infamous surgeon's photograph. Dr. Robert Kenneth Wilson, a London physician, presented a blurry black-and-white image of a long-necked creature rising from the water. The silhouette resembled a plesiosaur, a prehistoric marine reptile thought to be extinct for 65 million years. Despite its poor quality, the photo matched the Spicer's description. To a public hungry for wonders in the midst of the Great Depression, it was electrifying. Overnight, Nessie was transformed from rumor into a real creature. Toys, books, and films followed, cementing her place in pop culture. For decades, few dared question the surgeon's photograph. Why would anyone fabricate such a thing? But in 1994, Christian Sperling, on his deathbed, confessed the photograph had been a hoax. His stepfather, big game hunter Marmaduke Wetherell, concocted the scheme after being ridiculed by the Daily Mail for failing to find the monster. Sperling built a fake head and neck, attached it to a toy submarine, and snapped the legendary image. Dr. Wilson lent his credibility by submitting the photo to the press. Once this deception unraveled, other evidence collapsed too. The flipper photos from the 1970s, which seem to show a diamond-shaped fin, were revealed to be doctored. Film's grainy snapshots and eyewitness accounts crumbled under scrutiny. What remained was folklore, psychology, and the occasional unexplained sonar reading. By the 1960s, technology entered the hunt. The Loch Ness Investigation Bureau formed, deploying sonar equipment to scan the depths. Strange blips and echoes suggested something large moved beneath the surface. These hints kept the hope alive. In 1975, Dr. Robert Rines led an expedition combining sonar and underwater photography. They captured the so-called flipper photo, which briefly reignited belief in a living plesiosaur. A decade later, Operation Deep Scan launched, with 20 boats sweeping the loch using advanced sonar. Excitement spiked when they detected an unidentified large object at 600 feet. Yet no physical evidence surfaced. Despite millions spent and countless hours invested, the mystery endured. Loch Ness remained silent, guarding its secrets. By the 2010s, sonar and photography had given way to a new tool, environmental DNA, eDNA. Every living organism sheds genetic material, skin, scales, mucus, waste, into its environment. By sampling water and analyzing the DNA fragments, scientists can map the biodiversity of an ecosystem without seeing the creatures directly. In 2018, Professor Neil Gemmell and his team collected 252 water samples from across Loch Ness. The results were stunning. No plesiosaur DNA, no giant reptiles, no exotic creatures. The dream of a dinosaur hiding in Scotland's Highlands was laid to rest, but one discovery stood out: an overwhelming amount of eel DNA. Far more than expected. Could Nessie have been a misidentified giant eel all along? European eels live in Loch Ness naturally, migrating thousands of miles from the Sargasso Sea. Most grow modestly, but some individuals, due to a phenomenon called gigantism, can reach extraordinary lengths, several meters long. In murky water, a massive eel undulating near the surface could create ripples resembling humps. If it lifted its head, its slender profile might look like the neck of a plesiosaur. A frightened observer, primed by legend, could easily interpret it as a monster. Eels also live long, sometimes 50 years or more, giving them decades to reach abnormal sizes. Around the world, record-breaking eels have startled fishermen. In Loch Ness, where visibility is poor and imaginations vivid, a giant eel could easily spawn a century of sightings. But biology is only part of the story. Human imagination has been just as powerful. Psychologists note a phenomenon called priming. When people expect to see something, they are more likely to interpret ambiguous shapes as that thing. Visitors arriving at Loch Ness come looking for a monster. A floating log, a sudden wave, even a group of birds taking off can be misread as Nessie. Add fog, low light, and the loch's vast size, and illusions become inevitable. Even after hoaxes were exposed, belief persisted. People wanted Nessie to be real. The legend was too fun, too magical to abandon. In a world where science explains almost everything, Loch Ness offered a rare pocket of mystery. Still, some encounters resist easy explanation. The Dinsdale film of 1960, captured by engineer Tim Dinsdale, shows a dark shape moving across the water. Analysts have debated for decades: monster, boat, or trick of light. Similarly, sonar readings in the 1970s recorded large moving objects unlike known fish. Could they all have been eels, perhaps? Yet the ambiguity keeps the legend alive, and Loch Ness itself helps. At 755 feet deep, it holds more water than all the rivers and lakes of England and Wales combined. Its dark peat-filled waters allow visibility of only a few feet. It is quite literally the perfect place to imagine a hidden giant. Whether real or not, Nessie is undeniably valuable. Tourism linked to the monster brings millions of pounds each year to the Highlands. Villages like Drumnadrochit thrive on hotels, restaurants, boat tours, and souvenir shops overflowing with plush Nessies, mugs, and t-shirts. Beyond economics, Nessie is an icon of Scotland. She represents mystery, folklore, and national pride. Alongside bagpipes and castles, the Loch Ness Monster is instantly recognizable worldwide. Nessie is not alone. Legends like the Yeti in the Himalayas or Bigfoot in North America follow similar patterns. Blurry photos, questionable footprints, hoaxes, and endless debates. Scientific tests on Yeti hair usually reveal bare DNA. Bigfoot samples often turn out to be from common animals, yet people cling to the legends because they satisfy a deep human longing. The hope that the world still contains mysteries. So has the Loch Ness Monster been solved? Scientifically, yes. No dinosaurs lurk in Loch Ness. The most likely explanation is giant eels, combined with hoaxes, misidentifications, and human imagination. But in another sense, Nessie will never be solved. Because the real story isn't about what lives in the loch. It's about what lives in us, our craving for wonder, our fascination with the unknown, our love for stories that make the world feel bigger and more magical. Loch Ness may not hold a prehistoric monster, but it holds something equally precious, a legend that has inspired millions. And as long as people come to its shores, peering into the mist and hoping for a ripple, Nessie will live on.